In the context of accessibility standards, specifically concerning devices within a handicap-accessible room in a motel, a critical dimension to consider is 30 inches. This measurement often dictates the maximum height at which certain controls, outlets, or other operational components must be positioned to ensure ease of access and usability for individuals with disabilities. It's important to understand that the exact requirements can vary based on the specific regulations in effect, such as those outlined in the Americans with Disabilities Act, referred to as ADA standards or state-specific building codes. Firstly, the ADA standards for accessible design play a significant role in defining these height limitations. These standards provide detailed specifications for various elements within accessible spaces, including reach ranges for operating controls and the placement of electrical outlets and switches. The goal is to create an environment where individuals with mobility impairments can independently use the facilities. Secondly, state and local building codes often incorporate or adapt the ADA standards to align with their own regulatory frameworks. These codes may introduce additional requirements or clarifications based on local considerations. It is crucial to consult the specific building codes applicable to the location of the motel to ensure full compliance. Consider the placement of light switches as an example. In an accessible room, the light switches should be positioned within the specified reach range, typically no more than 48 inches above the finished floor for a side reach and no more than 44 inches for a forward reach. The 30-inch dimension often relates to the lowest permissible height for controls or outlets to prevent them from being too low and difficult to access from a wheelchair. Electrical outlets are another important consideration. Accessible outlets should be positioned within the compliant reach range, ensuring that individuals can easily plug in devices without excessive bending or stretching. The ADA standards provide detailed guidance on the placement of electrical outlets and other electrical components in accessible spaces. Thermostats are another component to consider. The positioning of thermostats is crucial for ensuring that individuals can independently adjust the temperature in their room. Accessible thermostats should be mounted within the specified reach range, allowing for easy operation from a seated position. The 30-inch dimension may influence the positioning of the lower edge of the thermostat housing. The mounting heights for various devices can be influenced by the presence of other features or obstructions in the room. For instance, if there is a countertop or other element that limits forward reach, the maximum height for controls and outlets may need to be adjusted to ensure accessibility. The ADA standards provide guidance on dealing with obstructions and reach limitations. Consider the placement of door hardware. Accessible door hardware, such as levers or handles, must also comply with reach range requirements. The hardware should be easy to grasp and operate with one hand, without requiring tight grasping, pinching, or twisting of the wrist. The positioning of the hardware should allow for easy access from a wheelchair or other mobility device. The 30-inch dimension might relate to the lowest acceptable height for the hardware. The clear floor space around an accessible element is another important consideration. The clear floor space should provide ample room for maneuvering a wheelchair or other mobility device. The size and configuration of the clear floor space are specified in the ADA standards and must be adhered to in order to ensure accessibility. Signage within an accessible room must also comply with accessibility standards. Signage should be visually clear and easy to read, with appropriate character height, contrast, and tactile elements. Tactile signage should be positioned within the specified reach range, allowing individuals with visual impairments to access the information. The 30-inch dimension may relate to the placement of the lower edge of the tactile signage. The positioning of grab bars in accessible bathrooms is also subject to specific requirements. Grab bars should be securely mounted and positioned to provide support and stability for individuals using the toilet, shower, or bathtub. The height and spacing of grab bars are specified in the ADA standards and must be carefully followed to ensure safety and accessibility. The 30-inch dimension does not directly relate to grab bar height, as grab bars are typically installed higher up, but it is important to remember that all aspects of the accessible bathroom design must be compliant. It is important to consult the most current version of the ADA standards for accessible design and any applicable state or local built-in codes to ensure full compliance with accessibility requirements. These resources provide detailed specifications and guidance on the placement of devices and other elements within accessible spaces. In addition to complying with the minimum requirements, it is also good practice to consider the needs and preferences of individuals with disabilities when designing or renovating accessible spaces. This may involve incorporating features that exceed the minimum requirements or providing additional amenities to enhance accessibility and usability. For example, providing adjustable height work surfaces or installing automatic door openers can significantly improve accessibility for individuals with mobility impairments. When installing electrical outlets, consider using tamper-resistant outlets to enhance safety, especially in areas where children may be present. Tamper-resistant outlets have internal shutters that prevent the insertion of foreign objects, reducing the risk of electrical shock. The proper installation and maintenance of accessible features are essential for ensuring continued compliance and accessibility. Regularly inspect accessible elements to identify and address any issues or deficiencies. This includes checking the height and positioning of devices, ensuring that clear floor spaces are maintained, and verifying that signage is legible and in good condition. When performing renovations or alterations to accessible spaces, it is important to ensure that the work is performed in accordance with accessibility standards. This may involve hiring qualified contractors who are familiar with accessibility requirements and obtaining necessary permits and inspections. The ADA standards also address accessibility requirements for communication features such as visual alarms and assistive listening systems. Visual alarms should be provided in accessible rooms to alert individuals with hearing impairments in the event of an emergency. Assistive listening systems can be used to enhance communication in meeting rooms and other public areas. The positioning of accessible elements should be carefully considered to minimize the risk of accidents or injuries. For example, protruding objects should be avoided in circulation paths, and sharp corners should be rounded off to prevent injuries. The use of contrasting colors and textures can also help to improve visibility and reduce the risk of slips and falls. Accessible design is not just about complying with legal requirements, it is about creating environments that are inclusive and usable for everyone. By carefully considering the needs of individuals with disabilities, we can create spaces that are welcoming and accessible to all. Ongoing training and education are essential for ensuring that staff and employees are knowledgeable about accessibility requirements and best practices. This includes training on how to interact with individuals with disabilities, how to operate accessible features, and how to respond to accessibility-related inquiries or concerns. The ADA standards also address accessibility requirements for websites and other electronic content. Websites should be designed to be accessible to individuals with visual impairments, hearing impairments, and other disabilities. This may involve using alternative text for images, providing captions for videos, and ensuring that the website is compatible with assistive technologies. When selecting furniture and equipment for accessible spaces, it is important to consider the needs of individuals with disabilities. For example, chairs should be of appropriate height and have armrests to assist with transfers. Tables should have adequate knee clearance to accommodate wheelchairs. The positioning of accessible parking spaces is also subject to specific requirements. Accessible parking spaces should be located close to the entrance of the building and should be clearly marked with appropriate signage. The parking spaces should be wide enough to accommodate wheelchair access and should have an adjacent access aisle. Consider the impact of lighting on accessibility. Adequate lighting is essential for ensuring that individuals with visual impairments can safely navigate the space. Lighting should be evenly distributed and glare-free. The use of task lighting can also be helpful for individuals performing specific tasks. Accessible design is an ongoing process that requires continuous evaluation and improvement. Regularly solicit feedback from individuals with disabilities to identify areas where accessibility can be enhanced. Use this feedback to inform future design decisions and to ensure that accessible spaces are truly meeting the needs of their users. Remember to always prioritize safety when designing and maintaining accessible spaces. Ensure that accessible elements are properly installed and maintained to prevent accidents or injuries. Provide clear and concise signage to guide individuals safely through the space. The integration of universal design principles can further enhance accessibility by creating spaces that are usable by people of all abilities. Universal design principles emphasize flexibility, simplicity, and intuitiveness, making spaces more accessible and user-friendly for everyone. By incorporating these principles into the design process, we can create environments that are not only accessible, but also more enjoyable and convenient for all users. The 30-inch dimension in accessible design serves as a critical guideline, but understanding its application requires a comprehensive grasp of the ADA standards, state and local building codes, and the specific needs of individuals with disabilities. By adhering to these requirements and embracing universal design principles, we can create environments that are truly inclusive and accessible to all.